Assaults have risen across the state and could be linked to police preferring more criminal charges against domestic violence perpetrators, Queensland's police commissioner says. The state's overall crime rate was up 2% compared to 201,516 figures, according to the Queensland Police Service annual statistical review handed down on Friday. Police Commissioner Ian Stewart with Queensland Minister for Police Mark Ryan speaking about the annual statistical review. Photo Glenn Hunt. This increase spread across a range of categories, most notably in offences against the person 9% such as homicide, assault, robbery and against property 9% such as theft, fraud and arson. Taking into account the growth of the Queensland population, the rate of offences against the person increased by 9%, from 645 to 701 offences per 100,000 people. Domestic violence breaches in 201,617 had risen by 9% compared to the 201,516 period, according to the review. Photo-supplied assaults accounted for 65% of offences against the person for 201,617. In contrast, domestic and family violence-related incidents were down 5% compared with the 201,516 financial year. Domestic violence breaches were up 9%, with a total of 25,678 offences reported to police, which equates to a rate of 524 offences per 100,000 people. There were 1,049 incidents of non-fatal strangulation in a domestic violence context recorded for the 201,617 financial year after it was introduced in May 2016. Police Commissioner Ian Stewart believed the rise in assaults and fall in domestic violence incidents were linked. You will notice there has been a rise in assault offences if you look at the trends right across the state, he said. I would suggest that is linked directly to domestic and family violence because our officers are preferring more criminal assault charges against these perpetrators. He said the assault numbers were a little concerning. I think a lot of this is tied to domestic violence. We are seeing our focus on domestic violence actually causing a spike in the number of reported offences, he said. We have been working with the community. We have our liaison officers out there, trying to work with the community to try and get them to report and ultimately get support and assistance from us and the other referral agencies, Mr. Stewart said. While the number of property and personal offences had increased, clearance rates had remained largely the same and attributed it to police working harder. According to the review, 79% of assaults reported during the 201,617 financial year had been cleared by police in the same time period compared to 85% in the previous year. Of all the property offences reported in the 201,617 period, 40% were cleared, maintaining the same clearance percentage as the 201,516 period. The clearance rates generally across the state haven't dropped. That means more of those people are being dealt with, more of those crimes are being solved and resolved. That is what the clearance rates are showing, Mr. Stewart said. It proves another factor, that we can't simply arrest our way out of crime. It is about all those other factors that come into that. The review also indicated there was a 15% increase in the rate of fraud offences. Weapons Act offences increased by 1%, while traffic and drug offences dropped 7% and 6% respectively. There were 5 reported cases of unlawful striking causing death offences in the 201,617 period, up from 3 cases in the previous period. The Brisbane region recorded the highest rate of other homicide offences, including attempted murder, conspiracy to murder and manslaughter, compared to other Queensland regions. There were 5,860 reported sexual offences in the past financial year, equating to a rate of 120 offences reported per 100,000 persons. The number of reported sexual offences fell by 11% from last financial year. The review pointed out the age distribution of male sexual offenders was almost uniform across all age groups except 15 to 19-year-olds, where there were 2 to 3 times as many offenders compared to other age groups. The number of male offenders over 55 years was only slightly lower than other age groups. For those proceeded against, 62% were arrested, while 8% were served with a notice to appear. The 2 groups most likely to have been victims of offences such as assault, sexual offences, robbery and homicide, were females aged between 15 and 24. This flipped when the age of offences against the person rose to 35 years and older, where men were likely to be the victims. For the 10-year period from 200,708 to 201,617, the review indicated there had been a 7% increase in overall crime. However, Mr. Stewart noted in review there had been a 5% decrease in the rate of offences against the person and a 2% decrease in the rate of property offences. A scathing report released by the Queensland Audit Office in April found the Queensland Police Service had an unacceptable amount of crime data that was incomplete, inaccurate, and wrongly classified. Mr. Stewart said while the report raised risks, it did not identify specific instances. I don't believe there has been any examples shown, certainly not shown to me, of where the crime stats have been intentionally made to look better, he said. Queensland Police Minister said there was expected to be up to 78 first-year constables to join the police service over the next few months to help crack down crime. I am excited that more officers will soon be joining our frontline officers and further boosting community safety, he said. The full review can be read here. Percentages reported in this story are the rates of crime per 100,000 people, as opposed to increases-decreases of raw numbers.